Is there a way to sort of hijack the tennis to really improve that weight loss?
I wouldn't say that you can hijack. I mean, more sort of looking towards adequate sort of protein intake and things like that, so your metabolism is working as efficiently as it can.
That's the beauty of tennis. The pace that you want to play at will very much match not only what you can do, but what you want to do.
It's also important to make sure that we're not eating too little as well, because then you find that, okay, yes, the weight might come off, but then you get to a point where your metabolism starts to slow down and you find you plateau.
If you do it for, say, an hour or two, that consistent stop-start sort of exercise, it works so beautifully for enhancing your metabolism.
Even if it's, as you say, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever that you can do, you're still progressing towards helping with your weight loss.
Well, hello again to everyone listening to our podcast, Getting a Grip Tennis. On our current theme, we're doing a little bit of a mini-series these days looking at health and tennis. And one of the key things that's important in that is not only nutrition, but also the benefits tennis can bring to our health. And actually, it's that second bit that we want to have a little look at today. So we're going to, and I've aptly named this, How to Lose Weight Playing Tennis. Now, there is debate as to whether that's a good idea, and this is what we're going to discuss today. However, I am certain that there is a safe way of managing that, because I think that tennis is such a good type of exercise that there is always going to be a good way to utilize that type of exercise, this short interval, these short bursts of basically like rallies and points that only last sort of 10, 20, 30 seconds. I'm convinced that is a good way for people to be able to lose weight. However, there will be drawbacks like anything. So today we have Ed Stolliday on. He's been on before on the podcast. We were looking at nutrition last time. And this is something that we want to introduce a little bit more, because it's something that in tennis is so important that people don't quite realize is looking after yourself before and after, even during matches and trainings and stuff like that. But we're going to, one of his key roles for the NHS is working on helping people lose weight through their diet. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's correct. So I thought, let's bring in his tennis knowledge as a coach and his nutritional knowledge over his career, and let's aim that towards the job that he's been doing most recently, and that's helping people lose weight. And let's see if we can marry them together. So what do you think, Ed? My first question is it a good idea?
So thank you first for having me on again. Yes, I think, definitely, if you're looking to lose a bit of weight, then yeah, tennis is definitely a good sort of way to do that whilst having fun. I think there's, something out there in terms of exercise for an activity for everyone, and tennis, give tennis a go. I think it's, definitely a good way to do that.
Yeah, interesting. Because the way I always see tennis, right? And I've had injuries over the time that I've been playing and coaching and whatnot. And these injuries tends to always be joint related. Now, again, when we're talking about losing weight as well, you're probably at a point where that lateral movement with extra weight is probably going to be a little bit more stressful on your joints. Do you think there's a good way of ensuring that you can protect that element or reduce the damage that you could possibly do?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a few sort of considerations you can make in terms of sort of looking at, how and where, why, where you play and things like that. Court surface is obviously difficult for some and things, but, doing it on more hard court can put more sort of stress on the joint. So if you do have, grass court or something nearby, gives a bit more sort of cushion to your joints and things, but obviously you've got to be aware of the slipperiness of the surface. I think, again, looking at sort of, making sure that you've got proper footwear as well. It's a nice sort of cushioning and sort of ankle support as well, especially if, obviously the extra weight is going to put a little bit more sort of strain on the joints and such. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. No. Those are all great points. I think you're right about the court surface. We often notice when, and I've been on club committees at sort of universities and local tennis clubs as well. And one of the key things we always talk about is, oh, we'd love to have a clay court because they're great for the joints of especially elderly people who want to continue enjoying their tennis. We always talk about post tennis, post a hit or something like that. We always feel a little bit sore. Maybe the knees have felt it, maybe your hips feeling it. Well, Andy Murray's hip was certainly feeling it. But like I say, all of these things, they build that pressure. Clay courts are definitely a good shout for me. You mentioned about the slipperiness of the court. Grass courts are good as well, a bit softer. But obviously, yeah, all of these things, you've just got to be wary. And funny enough, the advice you've just given, the idea of, sensible footwear, nice ankle support, is that really not advice we should be giving everyone?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think it should be, generic advice for everyone. Everyone should follow that.
Certainly more important, though, if you are using tennis as a good method of losing weight. So let's put it this way. I feel like we've established that it can be done safely. So I've got an expert here telling me that it is safe to play tennis as a means of helping you lose weight. But it's probably not the only thing you can do, is it? So if you're playing tennis, your nutrition, how you actually manage what you're eating around that, that's probably going to play. Is there a way to sort of hijack the tennis to really improve that weight loss?
I think, I think it's looking at as with respect to the any sort of movement that you're going to be doing, is going to sort of help with weight loss in some respect, because obviously you're going to be increasing your heart rate, you're going to be sort of burning the calories and using up stored energy and things like that. In terms of sort of hijacking, I wouldn't say that you could hijack. I mean, more sort of looking towards adequate sort of protein intake and things like that. So your metabolism is working as efficiently as it can, and then it's not meaning for as much sort of snacking and things like that. So I think that's important, and making sure that you're getting, adequate nutrition throughout the day, that you're not sort of missing meals and you've got the energy and such.
So it's not about not eating as you play tennis in order to lose weight. If anything, you've got to probably make sure you're getting that right food in more often. Do you think portion size might be the main thing here to manage? I mean, obviously, in your experience, portion size is probably one of the key things that helps anyone lose weight.
Yes, no, I think you're 100% right. And I mean, everybody's sort of different. Everyone needs, everybody's body's different. Everybody's metabolism works in a different way. Some people have a faster one, some people might have a slower one, and things. Obviously there's different factors that can affect how your body processes stuff. So in terms of sort of medical conditions, age, gender, there's all sorts of things that can play on it.
That's interesting as well. I was going to say, because I'm someone that's got type 1 diabetes, and I know that tennis is not only something that I use to help manage that, but it's something you've got to be wary of as well. I imagine with obesity, a lot of the time it's linked with type 2 diabetes, so that's probably something to manage as well. And I would say, from my experience with diabetes, and I know they're different, type 1 and type 2. You've got to manage them very differently, but in my experience, adequate nutrition, specifically on a carbohydrate front, is very, very important in order to be able to function, let alone play tennis.
Yeah, because I mean, if you don't start your tennis with, if you start without any energy in your system, then as you play the tennis, you're just going to go into an even more low, which is it's not going to be great, and you're going to be feeling sort of pretty rubbish and things. So it's especially important for those that have sort of diabetes and things, to make sure that their blood sugar levels are adequate before they even start sort of playing any sport.
That's a great point. And actually, that's my most desired podcast title that I really want to get going, an episode all about diabetes and tennis. Little selfish, I know. And yeah, maybe I think it'd be good as well. I think, I've got a lot of information sort of burning away, but there are experts out there. And interestingly, there are a lot of tennis players out there that have medical conditions such as type 1 diabetes that are at the top of the game. Alexander Zverev, for example, has only recently come out and said that, that he has had type 1 diabetes since a young age. And I think that's a massive thing, because it proves that, to be an elite athlete, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have what a lot of people describe as perfect health. You can still find a way to supercharge your own body. So everyone's bodies are different, and that's really important. And I think on a weight loss aspect, that's probably true as well. Would you say?
Yeah, tennis is a very versatile sport. So, those with, as you said, sort of medical conditions and such, there are ways to get involved in the sport. For example, if you're not able to move around as much, there are ways you can adapt tennis. So, for example, even if you've got like a sort of flat wall at home, you could grab a tennis racket and a ball and just sort of tap it against that. Even if you're walking and, you're still using your arm to hit the balls, you're still using, muscle groups and things like that.
That's a great point as well, because tennis is an all-body sport, which a lot of them aren't. It especially uses the core as well. And I know that a lot of people, for a fact, I'll say for a fact, I'm going to ask you on this one. I reckon a lot of people struggle to lose weight in certain areas. They always struggle with body image, perhaps. And there are certain parts of their body that they really want the weight to go from, especially when, either you're a little overweight or maybe quite severely as well. Would you say that actually that approach, where you've got a whole body sport, you're using all those muscle groups, do you think that helps improve that type of weight loss, that actually in different zones, or does it not really matter?
Yes, I think it will definitely help. As a whole body sport, it will help you to lose weight, and it helps sort of tone up different muscle groups and things like that. Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, a lot of people, I think, find it most difficult to lose that sort of, visceral fat, the fat around your sort of stomach area and things like that. And looking at more sort of low impact or lower intensity activities is going to help to sort of combat that and improve that.
Yeah, I suppose that's really good as well. And that's the beauty of tennis. The pace that you want to play at will very much match not only what you can do, but what you want to do as well. Like, you can easily turn up to tennis, just hit a ball against someone else on the court, move around a little bit, or you can really go for it and try and grind each other into the dirt, have each other going from side to side of the court, running, sprinting, sliding, perhaps, exactly, if you're on a clay court as well.
But I think the most important thing is, make sure you warm up before you play. So obviously you're going to get those, you don't want those injuries and things to crop up. Because then that's going to put back.
That's a good point. Yeah. No, that's a very good point. I'll tell you what. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on? So you said obviously warming up is really important. If you're carrying that excess weight, you're using tennis as a method of losing weight, which we're at a point now where I'm really convinced that this is a good idea. How might you go about that warm up? What would you recommend?
So so warming up, obviously, because as you said, tennis is a very, you use pretty much all the muscle groups in your body. So it's going to have to be a warm-up that involves, a lot of those muscle groups. So a bit of sort of what we call dynamic stretching, so stretching whilst we're on the move. So, things like, I'm just rethinking my thought process here. You could do, obviously, depending on, your mobility and things like that. Sometimes lunges are a great stretch. Sometimes if you are carrying that excess weight, that can be sort of difficult. You've obviously got sort of arm movements that you could look at doing to warm up those muscles. It doesn't have to be a jog, even if you're just sort of walking to try and warm up those muscles.
Well, it's also about the heart rate as well, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
a lot of the time, your muscles warming up is largely driven by the fact that your blood is pumping around your body a little bit faster. It's getting into more of the muscle groups that you're using, and basically allowing all of those muscle fibers to be supplied with enough nutrients effectively. So I think you're right. That's probably very, very important. You would probably say hydration is quite important as well for this sort of thing as well, because I've never seen that metabolism works very well if you're a bit dehydrated.
No, 100%. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, as long as you're getting hydrated, because that helps with a lot of the bodily functions, and things. Massively helps with performance as well. I think as well as getting out adequate sleep is going to help with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, I really love the idea of using exercise like this to encourage weight loss, because there is a lot of evidence out there, and people are surely aware of this because people like you probably give them this exact advice. The best way to lose weight is not solely through exercise, is it?
I mean, there's lots of different factors. Exercise just being one of those particular factors. Again, as I said a minute ago, sleep is a massive factor. Obviously nutrition comes into it and things like that. So it's not solely focusing on the exercise side of it, but that you're managing your lifestyle as a whole.
So it's one tool within our box that really can push forward our weight loss journeys, rather than necessarily the only thing that you should be doing. It will probably help. I've noticed, for example, if you eat the same amount of food, like I noticed this myself, if I eat the same amount of food and I stop playing tennis, I start to put weight on. Whereas when I'm playing tennis as regularly as I like to play, I find the weight sort of falls off me. And this could only be a few pounds here or there. But, if you're noticing that difference in a period of weeks, then, over a period of a few months, then you could really start to see some improvements. And you'll also notice improvements in your strength as well. Because, as you say, like any sport that you do, you're using all those muscle groups. It's only going to assist in making you a little bit stronger, which will then make you want to do, well, at least for me, makes me want to do more.
Yeah, definitely. It's important to make sure you're getting the right balance. If you're looking to lose weight, then we do need to be in that slight sort of calorie deficit and things. If we're eating as the right amount for what we need for the day, in conjunction with the exercise, then the weight is going to stay the same. As you said, you find that if we're eating a surplus and we're not doing as much activity, then yes, as you said, the weight is going to go up. So we need to be in that slight calorie deficit to get the weight to come down. It's also important to make sure that we're not eating too little as well, because that can be very counterproductive. Because then you find that, okay, yes, the weight might come off, but then you get to a point where your metabolism starts to slow down and you find you plateau and you can't get any further. But you also, with that, you might be losing out on the essential nutrients and minerals that your body needs to function properly. And then if you're going to be participating in tennis, then, you're not going to be able to perform as well as you want to.
So your key advice here would be, if you're going to use tennis as a productive means of weight loss, we know it's a good method now. It's basically not try and eat nothing. It's making sure that you're still keeping good nutrition.
Yes, indeed. 100%.
Yeah, so you've still got to eat. You've still got to eat as you play tennis in order to lose weight. Eating is not evil.
Indeed. Yeah. And no bad, there's no bad foods out there. Just foods that we need to eat in moderation and be careful of.
Oh, I love the way you say that, because in my head I'm thinking, oh, I'm eating crisps. I'm eating too many crisps, and immediately I'm thinking, I've eaten some bad food. But you're absolutely right, isn't it? It's as you go, anything in moderation. Some things you eat less of, and some things you should eat more of.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really important. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll finish off this discussion. I think that's been really productive. Nice little summary from this is weight loss with tennis is probably a good idea, provided you manage it sort of properly. You're actually watching it, you're trying to be safe, and not trying to go too hard as well. Like, I've seen a lot of people being like, right, I need to run loads. Probably not the thing, actually. That's the beauty of tennis, is if you do it for, say, an hour or two, that consistent stop-start sort of exercise, it works so beautifully for enhancing your metabolism and making it faster, because of the way that sort of thing works. What I want to know from you is sort of your top important thing to remember. What's the key thing if you're going to try and lose a little bit of weight whilst playing tennis? What do you think is the main thing that people might not be aware of? Maybe they are, but something they have to do.
So I think the one thing that's the main thing that comes to mind is, obviously you need to make sure that you're enjoying what you're doing, make it fun and things, because then you're going to enjoy the process more, rather than feeling, I have to go and do this and exercise and such. And it's, just sort of having the mindset of, you are, doing something, you're getting your body moving. It doesn't have to be, as you say, playing for, hours and hours on end. But, if you're just doing that little bit, even if it's, as you say, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever that you can do, you're still progressing towards helping with your weight loss.
Brilliant. I think that's a solid thing to think about, because, as you say, it's really simple things. It's the same with nutrition. They're always really simple things, but we're not necessarily always thinking about them. They're not necessarily always aware about them when we're playing tennis and when we're using tennis in our daily life. That's great. So thank you so much, Ed, for coming on and using some of your, NHS patient expertise as well, and how to lose weight. I think that's really key when we apply it to tennis, because, we could do so many of the things, as you said, so many of the things that we love can be productive for us. It's not just about us going and enjoying something. Oh no, that's bad. It's not productive time. It might very well be productive time. And that's what I always tell myself is sport's really important for my health, I know. So that's something that I always try and make sure that I keep and maintain a little bit in my everyday life. Well, thank you again. And I'd like to just remind everyone, make sure you give us a follow, a like, a share, a subscribe. Make sure you keep up with the podcast. We are weekly, and bringing you as much positive, easy, simple information that you might not necessarily be aware of, that will really help supercharge your tennis.